Hey, hey.
Hello, welcome to Dream Idiots. My name is Morris, and the hey guy is Bryan. Each week we bring you, we bring you stories, but initially we bring them to each other. We don't know what they are, and we try to surprise each other with our lack of breadth and depth in this world.
Yes, yes. Dream Idiots as deep as the average baby pool. That's it. That's our mantra. Yeah. Thanks for listening to our.
Fertilizer for your mind.
Thanks for listening to our stuff, folks. We do appreciate it. If you can, go on whichever platform you're listening to us on. You know where you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, Podchaser, all the random off-brand ones. If you can give us 5 stars, that helps us a lot. If you can give us a review as well, that also helps. You can give us feedback, give us a suggestion, whatever you'd like. You can check out dreamidiots.com. We have some merch there and the entire back catalog of now 130 episodes, going back 2.5 years, are all there. Uh, Drop us a line with a story idea or cursor. dreamidiots podcast@gmail.com is that address. And we're on Facebook and Instagram, which both are a little bit out of date, frankly, but I'll do some work on that. Those are both at Dream Idiots.
And we are also on smoke signals, tapping on pipes to talk to your neighbor next door.
Hmm.
And I think the good old tin cans connected by string as well. So
And soon OnlyFans. No.
that's all you, baby. All you.
Least profitable OnlyFans page ever, right?
Well, if your point was to provide an emetic for people to vomit up everything they've eaten, you've succeeded. Bryan and I take turns going first with our stories. Bryan, I don't have any updates. You don't have any updates, or do you have an update?
No
I've
updates.
already forgotten. Okay, so you get to
No.
go first. This is episode 131. What you
All
got for us
right.
this week?
So before we get into the meat of this story, I need to sort of set the stage for you. Let me take you back to the days of when you worked retail. Lots of fond memories there, I'm sure.
Sure.
I know you worked a few jobs like this when you were a young man just coming up. And the story that makes the job that you had that makes the most sense for this story, because you worked in Ingram Park Mall
Yep.
at a record store. I forget what was it. Was it Musicland or Hastings?
It was Musicland,
It was Musicland. Okay.
a Sam Goody store. Musicland, yes.
Okay. And so the reason I mentioned Ingram Park Mall is that it is not far from where the events of my story today took place. So just imagine, if you will, back when you were whatever, 17, 18, 19, working at the record store, and just imagine yourself standing, as I'm sure you did on several occasions, right near the entrance to the store, and you're saying goodbye to a customer on their way out, having spent money on whatever. And you peer down the way, maybe 100 feet off down the mall, and maybe you see Marvin, your coworker at the time and friend of the pod, Marvin,
My boss at the time, yeah.
your boss at the time, Marvin,
Yeah.
and maybe hypothetically you see me. Maybe we're 3 or 4 doors down in the mall. Maybe we're at, I don't know, an Orange Julius or something, but
Okay.
we're some distance off. You look away for a moment, and then there's a sharp bang, and you look back in our direction, and instead of just standing there, now you see us in a full sprint in your direction. Now, to be clear, this is, imagine a not a leisurely jog where we're chatting to each other. This is a life and death situation. It's white knuckled, wide eyed fear. You can tell
Okay.
by our facial expression and the urgency with which we're running that there must be something behind us that is going to kill us. So, my question for you is: do you immediately start running as well, or do you stand and wait to until at least reach you to find out what's behind us?
Because
There's
it's
no
you two?
Well,
Because
there's no, and there's no wrong answer, but just
well, because it's you two, I'll probably wait for you to get there.
okay. Well,
But on the other hand, if I'm one distance, I'm further away from whatever it
from
is.
whatever it is, right?
I would actually probably start. Yeah, I would probably
Start
start running
running.
and yelling over my shoulder. Yeah, what are
Right.
you guys running?
Maybe you trust our judgment and just go, you know what? I don't know what it is, but it's got to be bad. So, I'm not offended that you would let me die first. So yeah,
Well,
running does seem like, the right call.
you
And that
don't have to be
is
faster than the bear.
all right, exactly. And that's precisely the decision, maybe decision, that the hero of this week's story faced. So his name is Hillary. That's the first time I've ever come across a man named Hillary. Hillary Huser, Huser.
Hmm.
So Huser, he's standing right near the entrance to a large facility that's probably, I don't have exact measurements, but a big open cavernous space that's maybe 30 feet by 150 feet. He's right near the door. He hears a loud bang, like a car backfiring, but times 10, and then looks into the darkness of this cavernous space and sees two of his coworkers sprinting in his direction. They are Louis Ellinger and Floyd Lutz, and I'm convinced Floyd Lutz is a character from a movie. I think that's. It sounds like that must have been John Goodman's character from
Uh,
the Big Lebowski or something.
that's those are all horrible names, Brian. I don't
Right,
care
right.
for those names at all.
Hillary Huser, Louis Ellinger, and Floyd Lutz.
Mhm.
So moments before, they had been loading in a pallet, and now they're running for their lives. So Huser didn't really wait. He kind of turned immediately and ran. Presumably, all three of them are just yelling "Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh fuck!" all the way out. So, as I mentioned, your retail job as a teenager was Ingram Park Mall on
Hmm.
San Antonio's basically northwest side. So, if you
Right.
go a little bit further around on Loop 410 counterclockwise, you'll reach the intersection of Loop 410 and Highway 90. Now,
Sure.
you not having lived in San Antonio full time in a long time, you might not recognize this intersection now because I've gone through there a few times since in the past couple of years, and there is now this new. I don't know whether they do this in Colorado, but Texas now puts in these crazy high flyovers, and so there's a new flyover that's got to be 150 feet off the ground that takes southbound 410 traffic onto westbound 90, like you're headed to Castroville, then Uvalde. So
Sure.
I've driven this route a few times. And then when I'm way up in the air on this flyover, I've looked off basically to my left, kind of to the southwest, and wondered what the hell am I looking at? Off in that direction, there is a this big plot of land that, again, because you're up in the air, I can't you can't really gauge size or distance, but it's got to be dozens, maybe 100 acres of land, and what I see when I go over this thing is a series of what in my mind are Quonset huts. So a Quonset hut in my mind
Okay.
is you take a soda can and you cut it in half from top to bottom, and you rest the can on its side, and you put a door in one end basically. So you can see from this flyover tons of these Quonset huts, in basically in parallel rows, and from a distance, I when I was looking at them, I think they sort of look like they're the size of a one car garage, sort of. And I'm like, is this a survivalist camp? I don't. What
Yeah.
is this? Because you can't really tell, but you can. I've driven past it enough now I started counting and realized, okay, there's like 8 or 10 rows, and on every single road, it kind of goes up, terraced up this hillside. There are all these roads that are parallel to each other, and on each row there are kind of 8 or 10 of these little huts halfway buried into the side of the hill. Like I still couldn't quite figure it out. So go on Google Maps and start doing some research, and that's where I came upon this story. So that hunk of land now, back in the 50s and 60s, it was referred to as the Medina Annex, but now it is the Lackland Kelly Air Force Base Annex. Lackland Kelly are right there adjacent, just inside 410, and it's just extra land.
Okay.
So it's all military facility. So what happened
Yeah,
exactly?
you used to be able to you used to be able to see big old transport planes land there if you're down at Wolf
Oh
Stadium
yeah,
watching a
sure.
Missions baseball
Yeah,
game. You
yeah,
could see
the,
those come in out there. Yeah.
C-130s and C4s
Yeah, yeah, the big boys. Yeah.
right, floating in like they're hovering. Right.
Yeah.
So November 13th, 1963, there is a big ass convoy that comes through San Antonio with a big military presence, Air Force police cars, flashing lights. Something lands at Kelly Air Force Base, and it starts to wind its way through the area. This train of vehicles across 410. They go through at least one essentially residential neighborhood. I'm not sure whether it was on or off the base. There, at the time, a whole bunch of new sort of ranch style homes had been built. Dead center of this convoy. is a vehicle called a straddle carrier. It's basically the same vehicle that they use to take 18-wheeler trailers and pick them up and put them on boats or pick them up and put them on trains. So
Okay.
the drivers on top, and then there's a kind of carriage directly underneath them where they can pick up and move things around. So it's a big four-legged spider, basically.
That's what I was about to say. It's like a big
Right.
bug.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So convoy drives over into this area, which was it's a quote unquote secret area, but I'm sure it was very very well labeled with big ass fences. And these bunkers, these things that I was seeing, these rectangular bunkers, the military refer to them as igloos. And so, in one reference I saw, it says that they are roughly the size of four two-car garages. So they're big structures
Okay.
with and there are 100 of them or more. Because it turns out this facility is one of the country's largest nuclear weapons installations. So the reason all the security for this is they are transporting the mechanisms for partially dismantled Mark 7 nuclear warheads,
Jesus
uh,
Christ.
hundreds of which have been taken out of service. So technicians somewhere else had taken out the pits, had taken out the uranium core, but the shell of these things, at dead center of these is a metallic ball, just a shell that does have basically TNT based explosives. There are two explosives called baritol and cyclotol. Never heard of either one of them, but they're the ones that trigger the initial combustion that then fires the nuclear reaction, and then it goes, then Hiroshima basically
Uh-huh.
happens. So these spheres, they're the size of a beach ball. They're sort of studded with detonators around the outside. And when they're fully armed, they would blow up something. The Mark Sevens were basically four times the size of what destroyed Hiroshima, but minus the uh, uranium. They're still quite potent.
And
So
these things are just going through San
there's just
Antonio's
yeah,
northwest side.
they're
Okay.
being driven from the Kelly Air Force Base, not that far, but it's being driven on San Antonio roads over to Igloo 572. So each one of these spheres, they each weigh hundreds of pounds. They're each on a steel pallet, and I mean, it's a to say this is probably a very precarious and careful operation would be putting it mildly. They're on, they use a hydraulic lift to move them in there. The front door that I was seeing that I thought was kind of a basic garage door. It's a 10-foot tall door that weighs 2,000 pounds.
Holy shit.
Right. And so in Igloo 572, they place 209 of these spheres stacked in rows with gaps between them. And so, again, it's minus the uranium, but essentially they've turned Igloo 572 into one big fat fucking bomb. So these three guys are there working 10:24 a.m. on on this day. Heiser is at the entrance, making some notes on something. He hears that crack. He looks back and sees Lutz and Ellinger hightailing it in his direction. No one really knows exactly what happened. Maybe was a pallet nudged? Was something not perfectly level? Something dropped and made these hollowed out bombs very angry. I'm betting Floyd wasn't there trying to throw a football around or anything, but you never know. Lutz would say later on, quote, "There's no direct answer to what caused it that we know of." Um, he went on to say, when the igloo was fixing to ignite, we were inside setting down those units. As soon as that loud crack sounded, we scampered it out. Lutz said the fire started, so we hauled ass. They sprinted past Huser, who's at the door, yelling as they went. Huser said later, they didn't have to tell me to run. They went one way out the door, I went the other. I guess it had rained the day before, and I bogged down in a ditch and fell, got back up, and turned around and looked. And there was smoke coming off, and there was smoke coming off the igloo's vent. I was going to the next set of igloos to set off an alarm. I got about halfway, and the whole thing blew up. Um, Actually, if you have, I failed to send this to you beforehand. If you look at your email,
I am looking. Let me, I don't have anything yet. So basically, all of these 209 of these things are in there.
209 of these metallic beach balls are in there, still laced with TNT. And what I just sent you was an aerial shot taken moments after it went off.
All right, I'm opening it now. Holy shit.
So within a minute, the fire that started in 572 ignited all 209 spheres in that igloo. There's a gigantic detonation, and the entire structure, that's steel and concrete and all the dirt underneath of it and all the metal pallets, the hydraulic lift system, the incredibly heavy steel doors. That explosion went off over 1,000 feet tall. All this shit went straight up in the air. Um, the hole that it left
Good
beneath
God.
beneath this igloo was 25 feet deep and about 150 feet across. Basically, the entire size. I mean, just it left a crater more or less the same size as the igloo. And they speculate afterwards that there may have been a tiny bit of uranium or depleted uranium metal that was still maybe in there that vaporized into this cloud of dust. But it went 1,000 feet in the air. And if you look in the foreground, you can sort of see the little Quonset hut style structures.
Yeah, they're teeny tiny in this picture.
Right. And those things are, that front door is, 10 by 30 or 20, whatever. So that's a gigantic frigging explosion. So Ellinger and Lutz ran in one direction when the pressure wave hit, threw them both to the ground. They got up, started running again, made it about 100 yards from the explosion when Ellinger leapt into a culvert and he was just trying to dodge debris because all this shit's now coming down.
Yeah.
A hunk of concrete hit him in the thigh, left a knot in his thigh for the rest of his life. Lutz would say, we were lucky enough not to be blowed to pieces. Blowed, BLOW. The higher ups thought we were goners. Our boss told them those guys are probably no longer there. Huser was hit by the concussive blast as well. It ruptured one eardrum
I was about to say
and
that was my next question is how many of
right,
them went totally deaf at that
right,
moment? Yeah.
threw him to the ground. And then when he's laying on the ground trying to bring himself together, he also has that terrifying moment of realization that what goes up must come down. It's like, oh shit, because he looks over and this igloo's gone. So he said later, I stood there for what seemed like 5 minutes looking in the air to see if I could dodge all that stuff and finally decided I couldn't. So the biggest thing I could find was a little old bush. He dove under a bush and curled up in the fetal position, clutched his arms over his head, and just chunks of metal and concrete and just stuff, dirt, just crashed all down around him. When it's over, Huser gets up and starts moving around. There is a chunk of concrete just a few feet away from him, about the size of a jeep, that just missed him. The
Jesus.
the chain link fences around the whole facility were knocked down. Um, they used an old school bus to transport folks from the air from Kelly and Lackland over to this facility. The bus had been knocked down. All the windows were blown out. He's when he's looking at the wreckage, he manages to get over to the doorway of the next igloo finally and sits down. He's beginning to wonder what happened to Ellinger and Lutz. After a few minutes, his boss shows up in a vehicle and just sees him, waves at him, can tell he's okay. Um, Huser tells him that the other
What?
two,
What? He says.
the other two guys ran off, and so his boss just kept going. An ambulance shows up, seconds later, and Ellinger and Lutz are actually in the ambulance already. So all three of these guys actually survive. The blast rattled the hell out of Lackland Elementary School, where there are a bunch of kids on the playground. and they see this. I mean, that cloud's not really a mushroom cloud, but that cloud is definitely very impressive. A guy named Bill Monroe, who was in seventh grade at the time, said, "We thought World War III had started. We were all scared shitless. Sirens are going off. Windows have been broken, across the housing complex and across the area, and so there's just complete panic. Basically, residents are rushing out, trying to find kids. What's going on? Just basically sheer panic. There's several articles in the Express and in the Light that came out in the evening edition, and there was actually no like official evacuation, but everyone went outside and everyone was trying to leave, and so there was just a huge traffic jam across the area.
And
The
is that why
damage,
that school mascot are called the Lackland Pant Shitters? Is that how they got that name? Their colors are
right? The fighting diapers, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because of the blast was so severe. I mean, it was all over. Traffic was kind of the traffic jam was bad on that side of town, but on the north side, dishes were thrown off, off out of shelves, decorations knocked down. At the Continental bus station on Broadway downtown, a huge plate glass window in the front of this thing was blown out 13 miles away.
Good Lord.
Um, when the explosion happened, Huser's wife Mary was grocery shopping at the Model Market on Vance Jackson, so
Sure.
not close by, 11 miles away. The
Yeah.
store's plate glass window there had definitely, they felt it, and they could they could see the window sort of flexing, bulging because of the pressure, but it didn't break. She then went next door, and there was a TV in the window next door, and they were reporting on the explosion. And her solution was she ran next door still to the liquor store and got a bottle of booze to take home to celebrate what she thought was her husband's narrow escape, but she really had no really had no idea what had happened to her husband. Uh, so this is a major deal. You can just tell from that picture. This is could have been horrific. Tons of press. Again, even at this time before social media, there was all this speculation that there obviously must have been radiation. People try to claim years later that there are increased incidences of cancer in this area, which are most of that's pretty heavily disputed. And but there is this. I mean, the panic that ensues is basically obviously this is World War III. Obviously, this was a Russian attack. Is the only thing people can assume because look at it, right? It's just gigantic. Um, but this story, you've never heard of it. I had never heard of it before. I was driving past this facility and was just wondering what that was. Uh, the story is forgotten because on November 21st, 8 days later, Air Force One lands at the
Mm-hmm.
San Antonio International Airport, and John F. Kennedy and his wife Jacqueline Kennedy, uh, on the ground in San Antonio, are greeted by a huge screaming crowd. It's Sunday. People are dressed up. Texas Governor John Connally is there. His wife Nellie is there. There's their trip through downtown, and they go out to an event at Brooks Air Force Base. And the next day, everyone forgot about the explosion at the
Mm-hmm.
Medina Annex.
Jacqueline
But
says your town, San Antonio, is a real blast.
right. Happily, Floyd Lutz, Louis Ellinger, and Hillary Huser all lived to be well into their 80s. And this
Wow.
story mostly comes from a November 2020 article by David Wood from Texas Monthly.
That
So
is the craziest story about our hometown that I have ever heard that I didn't know any. I've never ever heard of this.
I
That's
mean, start to Google Lackland explosion, and there is a gob. There's tons of info on it and stories on it.
it is interesting because until November of 63, Trinity University was a completely flat campus. So I'm guessing the explosion had something to do with it.
Right. It formed Trinity Hill. Yeah.
That's that's a real in joke for Trinity folks who know what the climb is from lower campus to upper campus. That's astonishing, Brian. How have I never heard of this? Because Kennedy flew into town and was killed in Dallas 2 days.
Right.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
The headlines changed.
It does remind me of that time. I think I've talked about this before, that time that the teacher, like in second or third grade, told everybody, we don't have to worry about nuclear war. If we go to nuclear war, San Antonio's getting wiped off the map because of all the Air Force bases. We'll be gone like that. It was like, what? What? Should you be telling kids this?
Right. Which, I mean, to be honest, in a nuclear holocaust, I don't want to live. Just I don't. I have none of the skills that make it that would make me
That's
an asset.
that's that's just I cannot believe I've never heard of the story. I really can't. That's an insane little chapter in San Antonio history.
Yeah, and weirdly, no one died. I mean,
Yeah,
all that
I was
hundreds
expecting
hundreds of tons of shit in the air, no one died.
I was expecting people, cars getting cut in half, people getting decapitated left and right. Good God.
A 1 ton metal door landed somewhere. God.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is, if that hadn't have been there, the Quonset hut above it with the doors, would it have been worse or better because it wouldn't have been contained? And then, I
I don't know.
mean, I guess it went more straight up than out. If it's, I don't
I
know. I
mean,
don't know how that
I
shit
mean, I
works.
blew all that stuff straight up. I mean, I know nothing about explosives, obviously, but I believe it's the case that the reason the Hiroshima and Nagasaki explosions were as catastrophic as they were is because they exploded, whatever, 2 miles up,
Mhm.
right? And then that just created the fireball that went out. So it may be the case that if this had gone off, to open air, it would have been a bigger, a more impressive cloud, but there's less, quote unquote ammunition. There's less shit in it flying around.
Blew out a window on South Broadway. That's like 15 miles away, isn't it?
Right? Yeah, something
Holy
like that.
shit.
Boom!
Brian,
Whoa, what was that?
this is easily the most surprising story you've ever told me. I'm
I've had this.
flabbergasted.
I've had this in my queue for probably a year.
Oh, so you were saving it for, a special occasion.
Right.
Holy crap. That is something else. I don't even know where to go from here. Should Thank you, Brian. Should we go to the curse word of the week?
Absolutely.
Okay. In a change of pace, I'm doing the curse word of the week this week. Brian, have you ever heard the term Herkimer Jerkimer?
Herkimer. It sounds familiar, but I can't tell you why. I've forgotten why.
Well, it's a phrase that originates from New York City in the 1940s, and it refers to a small town 15 miles southeast of Utica, up in kind of the northern central part of upstate New York. Herkimer was a 1732 German settlement. There's a village named Herkimer, which is inside of a town named Herkimer, which is inside of a county named Herkimer. Collectively, the village, town, and county are known as the Herkimers. If you were to be called a Herkimer Jerkimer while, say, wandering about New York City, you're essentially being called. What do you think you're being called if you're being called a Herkimer Jerkimer?
A bumpkin, a country bumpkin.
Absolutely. A hick,
Right.
a country
Right.
bumpkin, or a one of
Right.
your favorite words, yokel. Now, Herkimer Jerkimer should not be confused, and Herkimer itself should not be confused with Hicksville, New York.
Hmm.
You've heard of Hicksville, New York? That's out in Nassau County on Long Island, and I don't know if that's where the term hick comes from. I'm not sure. I don't think
Okay.
it is. But Herkimer Jerkimer was another way of calling someone a yokel or a bumpkin or a rube or a hick from the sticks. So that
Nice.
is our
Herkimer.
curse word of the week. Herkimer
Herkimer.
Jerkimer.
Jerkimer.
Yeah. You, sir. You, sir.
It's a very
Um,
posh insult.
Yes, that comes from a book that we used before called The Curious New Yorker, 329 Fascinating Questions and Surprising Answers about New York City, published in 1999 from the New York Times. A
Hmm.
really great read if you've ever lived in or visited or have any love for New York. It's got all kinds of secrets about New York City in it. So that's the
Cool.
curse word of the week, Herkimer Jerkimer. Now, are you ready for my story, Brian?
Let's go.
Okay. Brian, what do you know about the connection between the Ivy League universities and the colleges and universities known as the Seven Sisters?
I don't know of any. I don't know what the relationship is. I have heard of the Seven Sisters, and I can
Hmm.
probably name one or two
No,
of
go ahead. Go
them.
ahead.
I want to say Wellesley is one of them.
That's correct. It is one of them.
Shoot.
Well,
Yeah,
here's the
I don't know.
relationship between them. The Ivy Leagues, of course, are amongst the oldest and most prestigious institutions of higher education in the United States. I have my Yale rejection letter framed, for example. The Seven Sisters were schools formed to give women an education equivalent to that provided to men at Ivy League schools. So, as a way of kind of balancing out the equation,
Right.
there are 8 Ivy League schools. The Seven Sisters are now kind of the Five and a Half Sisters these days. Radcliffe was absorbed into Harvard in 1999. So Radcliffe is now part of Harvard.
Okay.
And Vassar went co-ed in 1969.
Hmm.
Cornell, one of the Ivies, admitted women since its founding in 1865, the only Ivy League school to do so since its founding. So right from the get-go, women were admitted into Cornell. Now, this is all good to know because I've got a college-age kid and another one who'll be there soon. This is also a misdirection of sorts, Bryan, because I'm not doing a story on the Ivies and the Seven Sisters. Instead, I'm administering the College Quiz 7th edition,
Oh,
all Ivy
shit.
Leagues and Seven Sisters Spectacular to you.
Okay.
You thought you were done with this horse shit. You are not. Folks, as I always say, in my college rhyming game, Bryan here will have to complete a phrase which reflects the college and university name, the mascot, or the city in which the college or university is located. I will give you 3 examples, and then, Bryan, I'm going to read to you 10 setup lines which you have to complete. And remember, these answers rhyme. There is no offense meant to any of these schools or cities or mascots. I fully support higher education. It's just because they fit a rhyme scheme. Bryan, you didn't see this coming, did you?
No, I didn't.
Great, good. So, Bryan, if you get 7 correct answers before I finish the test, you win. If you get to 6 or less, you lose. But if you're at six correct answers after 10 questions, I will give you an 11th setup as a lifeline to get that 7th correct answer. So you've got to
Okay.
get basically 7 out of a 10 or 11.
Okay.
And always, Bryan, if you lose, we have to play this ridiculous game again on a future episode. However, if you win the honor of playing this
This
ridiculous
game,
game
right?
again on a future episode. And
Because
the three,
I think I've won once, right?
I
Once or
think you've
twice.
won once or twice, yeah.
Okay.
And the examples I give for folks maybe who haven't heard an episode like this is if you're at Michigan and need a haircut, you should visit the blank and blank blank.
Barber in Ann Arbor.
That's right. If
Right.
you're at Washington and haven't had a proper bath for a while, you might smell like a blank blank.
Husky musky.
Musky
Husky
husky, that's
husky.
correct.
Right.
Yeah. And if you attend a private Christian university in Malibu and you're an exceptionally attractive person, you are blank blank
Looking
at
fine at
blank.
Pepperdine. Oh
Looking fine at
yeah.
Pepperdine. Okay. All right. So let's go. Round 1, the easy level. Bryan,
Shit.
and these are written specifically for you, buddy. Your meanest relative, your meanest relative, the one you try to avoid at family reunions. Is he a dentist? I can never remember. Or is he an ortho? He's a dentist, right? The family member you always tried to avoid, an uncle that you. Anyway, your meanest relative.
I'm not sure who you mean. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, your meanest
He's not a
relative.
dentist.
Oh, okay. Your meanest relative. He has laughing gas, but he's not a dentist. Question 1. Your meanest relative, the one you try to avoid at family reunions, is always giving you grief about attending college in New Haven, Connecticut, razzing you despite your high GPA. He yells, "You're gonna blank at blank." New Haven, Connecticut. And he thinks you're gonna blow it. You're gonna blank at blank.
New Haven.
New Haven, Connecticut. And these
Oh,
answers are all
fail at Yale.
Baylor at Yale.
Right.
These answers,
Okay.
of course, will all be either Ivy League or Seven Sister Schools.
Okay. I
Bryan,
hate this.
I know you do. I know you do. Bryan, question number 2. So you're one. I'm going to keep track here.
Well, one for one.
That's 1 for 1. You throw a lot of question number 2. You throw a lot of parties at your Ithaca, New York University. You're known to raise blank at blank. You raise blank at
Ithaca,
blank.
New York.
Yep.
Raise blank. Oh, raise hell at Cornell.
Raise hell at Cornell. 2 for 2. Bryan, you've got a reputation as a practical joker at your university in Providence, Rhode Island. You're the blank from blank.
I'm sorry. Read again.
You've got a reputation as a practical joker at your university in Providence, Rhode Island. You're the blank from blank. No, the University of Fuck. No, that's not correct.
Which one is in Providence?
Do you want a hint?
No, not yet. Because
Okay.
it's not Dartmouth. Um, shit. I don't know. I'm brain
I'll give
dead.
you a hint.
Go ahead.
A certain animated canine attended college there.
Oh,
Reputation as a practical joker at a university in Providence, Rhode Island.
I don't know. Tell me.
You're the clown from Brown.
Brown. Fuck. Okay.
2 for 3. We start the medium level now with question 4. Being a practical joker runs in your family, Bryan. Your sister, your other sister, not this one, your other sister, a notorious prankster while at her college in Morningside Heights, New York, causes people to say, "You've got to be on your blank at blank."
Morningside Heights, New York.
Mm-hmm.
No idea.
Bryan, you've got to be on your guard at Barnard. It's
Bar. Oh,
one of the seven
okay.
sisters. Okay. Here's an easy one for you, Bryan. You're 2 for 4.
That's setting me up for failure.
You're the biggest geek on Columbia's campus. You're the blank and blank blank. The biggest geek on Columbia's campus. You're the blank and blank blank.
Dork in New York.
Dork in New York. Very good.
Okay.
Question 6. You mentioned Dartmouth earlier, Bryan. Now you
Mhm.
love your alma mater, Dartmouth, so much that you return there to run it. You are the blank blank blank. And I did
Blank
not
blank.
write Dartmouth with Fartmouth, just so you know. So the blank blank blank.
Hmm.
So we've eliminated the school. So it's either got to be a city or its mascot as the rhyming answer.
Yeah, I'm
The
trying.
blank blank blank.
I was thinking Dartmouth was the Tigers. No, that's not right. I don't know.
That is not right. I will tell you that. Their mascot has something to do with the Boston Red Sox. They have a familiar.
They're the Dartmouth Green Monsters. They're the Dartmouth. I don't know.
Close. Bryan, if you return to Dartmouth to run it, you're the Big Green Dean. They're the
They're the
Dartmouth Big
Big
Green.
Green.
They're the Big Green. Yeah.
That's so stupid.
Okay. Pretty much have to run the table from here on out.
Yeah.
Bryan, the last question of the medium round. Your cousin graduated from college in Poughkeepsie, New York. Poughkeepsie, New York, and went on to medical school and became an anesthesiologist. She is well known in the healthcare industry as the blank blank from blank,
Gas Passer from Vassar.
the gas passer from Vassar. Yes, Bryan, you're right. Okay. The hard level.
So is that 4 or 5? Five,
That
four,
is 4
four.
correct. Yeah, you're sitting at 3 losses. Round 3, the hard level. While visiting your girlfriend at her college in Pennsylvania, you fell down and tore up your arm something fierce. You required stitches. You love showing people your blank from blank blank. Blank from blank blank.
Blank from blank blank. Um, read again.
While visiting your girlfriend at her college in Pennsylvania, you fell down and tore up your arm something fierce and required stitches. You love showing people your blank from blank blank. What do stitches leave?
I don't know.
And
So
he's
Scar,
from blank blank. Brian, you like
Scar
showing people
from Warsaw. Scar from I don't know.
your scar from Bryn Mawr.
Bryn Mawr. Shit. Okay.
All right. This one is a goddamn bear. I'm tempted to give you five to get six because this one's tough. Your high school friend ate lots of peanut butter sandwiches while attending school in Cambridge.
Uh-huh.
Okay, there's a lot of hints in this. Attending school in Cambridge. She
Cambridge,
lived
England, or Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay.
She lived off blank at blank. And here's your hint. I've already mentioned this school out loud and named it in my preamble. She ate lots of peanut butter sandwiches while attending school in Cambridge. She lived off blank at blank.
Legumes at no. Blank at. Fuck. I don't know.
Bryan, she lived off of Jif at Radcliffe.
That's pretty good. Okay. Hmm.
But I'm tempted to give you a six and call this a victory because we're well, you're sucking wind, but you're at four. So let's just say if you get to six, you win this game.
Okay.
You got question 10 and the lifeline left.
Okay.
Bryan, you attended the University of Pennsylvania, where you developed a love of making pies, cakes, and pastries. Your family refers to you as the blank blank. University of Pennsylvania, where you developed a love of making pies, cakes, and pastries. Your family refers to you as the blank blank.
I've no idea. No clue.
Well, what's in Pennsylvania?
What do you mean? What's,
Who
what's
who
in
who
Pennsylvania?
who who basically what's the main group that was in Pennsylvania? They have oats named after them and
Oh, Quaker. So, oh, Quaker Baker.
Quaker Baker. There you go. Bryan, here's your lifeline question. We're going to call it six for a victory today. You had a cousin, you have a lot of cousins, Bryan. You had a cousin who developed a real problem with sugar-free sodas while in school at South Hadley, Massachusetts.
Okay.
She drank gallons of blank blank at blank blank.
So, read again.
You had a cousin who developed a real problem with sugar-free sodas while in school at South Hadley, Mass. She drank gallons of blank blank at blank blank.
Hmm. Oh,
Blank blank at blank blank. It's on the tip of your tongue. I can tell.
I'm not gonna get it. I feel like I'm gonna be disappointed disappointed with the answer, but I feel like I have something there, but I can't quite articulate it. Damn it. What is
I
it?
will. I am so glad that there's like 1,000 miles and a Zoom conference in between us because you will probably strangle me to death. Bryan, you had a cousin who developed a real problem with sugar-free sodas while in school at South Hadley, Massachusetts. She drank gallons of Diet Coke at Mount Holyoke.
Oh, I was thinking Diet Coke at first, but then I was convinced that there was something that was going to be tab related. There was going to be something that ended in an AB sound. So oh well, I was not close.
Well, you got
Diet
you
Coke or
got
Mental. Okay,
you got five right. That might
another
be
fucking defeat.
that might be the meanest one I've done yet. That and you should have heard some of the ones my sons were because I run
Yeah,
these by the boys before I give them to you, and they came out with some pretty mean ones. And I was like,
maybe not.
I think
Yeah,
I'm mean
so
enough with this poor guy.
on two or three occasions, I've pondered doing this in reverse on you, just
Mhm.
surprising you. but my brain can't do it. I'm like, okay, just me bring up a map of the, I don't know, Pac-12 and just play with it. And I'm nope, nothing.
Um, yeah, it's a blessing and a curse
Right.
because
Your brain is a wondrous thing.
that's not the word my wife used when I ran a couple past her. So
Right.
anyway, there you go. The seventh, I think it's the seventh. I'm pretty sure it's the seventh college quiz, seventh
Sixth or
edition.
seventh. Yeah.
Brian went 5 for 10 here on Dream
Fuck.
Idiots.
So
Further
disappointing.
proof, further proof that we can do a terrific story like the one Brian presented, and then just a pile of steaming fertilizer
Right.
for the second half. Incidentally, one thing I did have an announcement I totally forgot. Some folks have written in saying they enjoy watching the Talking Heads talk. So thank you very much if you've been checking us out on YouTube. Ross sent a nice message to us that he enjoys
Yeah.
watching us talk for some reason.
I
And
can't
that's it.
imagine, but
I can't either. Any parting thoughts or
nope, nothing for me.
okay?
Thanks for listening, folks. We appreciate you tagging along with us as always. Please, if you can, go on whichever app you're listening to us on. Give us 5 stars. Give us a review. That's hugely helpful. Check out dreamidiots.com. Order a T-shirt if you'd like, or a sticker that has our silly
Oh, that'd
logo
be
on it.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some merch is there. The whole back catalog is there as well. Drop us a line if you want. Give us a story idea. Occasionally, we have I've had a couple ideas come in from our email. That's just dreamidiotspodcast@gmail, and we're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. So if you don't want to just listen to our audio and you want to see our mugs as well, that's an option for you.
Yes.
And thanks a lot. We
Please.
appreciate it.
Yes. Please. Thank you. And be good to each other.